Regular business meeting of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board of Directors. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Dr. Agress?
Present.
Mr. Kazire?
Present.
Mr. Arthur?
Here.
Ms. Shudak?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Hardiman?
Present.
Mr. LaFurla?
Here. Now, please, if you will, join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve our agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And our agenda has been approved. Now we have approval of the minutes from our work session and workshop meetings of September 14th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move approval of the minutes for the work session and workshop meetings of September 14th, 2021.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And the motion carries. Next, we have student recognition for Hispanic Heritage Month. Dr. Merlot.
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. This time I'd like to invite Ms. Ostrowski to join me at the podium. She's going to introduce our special guest tonight. I'm really excited about this evening and that we'll be hearing from our Latino students, our Hispanic students that are here joining us this evening. So Ms. Ostrowski, the floor is yours.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
John's being my able assistant and casting it on these instead of that one. We want everybody to be able to see the student's presentation. My pleasure to tonight, as part of Hispanic Awareness Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, is to invite Mrs. Ajin Morales to join me at the podium to introduce our guests tonight. Ajin is a graduate of Abraham Lincoln High School and now a teacher at Woodrow Wilson Middle School. Welcome, Ajin.
Hi, good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing some amazing students. Latinos Unidos is an organization that runs through Abraham Lincoln High School, Thomas Jefferson, and now Wilson Middle School that I have the privilege of teaching there. So I just want to give them all the time that they have to be able to present. When we look at Hispanic Heritage Month, we're looking at celebrating, educating, and advocating, and really specifically tapping into our Hispanic heritage and how that makes an impact on us and the world around us. So I'm just going to invite my students to come up here, and we're just going to line up, and they each have a really quick snippet to share with you all. All right, so as they come up, we have a variety of different Latinx countries represented within the Council Bluffs School District. It's primarily a lot of students from Mexico, specifically Michoacan. They're kind of the ones that are representing right now for as the majority, but we do want to recognize that we have a variety of different countries that represent not just Mexico or Central American countries. So I'll let them go ahead and get started and introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Escobar. Hispanic culture is important to me because it is what makes me into the person that I am today. My daily life is mostly with people from Hispanic culture than from others because everyday Hispanic people are around me, and I also live with Hispanic people. Hispanic people are very different from other cultures, and I get to experience being a part of this wonderful Hispanic culture that surrounds me everywhere I go.
I am Ashley Escobar, and I go to Abraham Lincoln High School. And Latinos Unidos is a student-led club that is searching to get Hispanic representation at Abraham Lincoln High School and other schools to get Hispanic students involved in school activities, all while helping them feel comfortable at school. Latinos Unidos is important because it helps students get involved in school, making it more than just a daily obligation. And we reach out to all Latino students and offer ways to help them enjoy school and help them look forward to coming to school every day. On the long run, to help them reach their goals in high school and middle school, and to encourage them to to not feel embarrassed of their culture, but to rather celebrate it proudly and educate others and advocate.
Hi, my name is Roberto, and our popular foods are quesadillas, tacos, pozole, menudo, and all other sorts of Mexican foods. A few places to get some Mexican food or groceries is Latino Market on Avenue G, Juanito's Taco Truck on Avenue G, and Council Bluffs.
And then I have two other students from Wilson who weren't able to make it tonight. So Ashley and Elizabeth are going to represent their slides real quick.
Guadalupe from Wilson Row. Hi, my name is Guadalupe. I am from Guanajuato, and some of my favorite places to go is San Juan de los Lagos. Some of my favorite foods are pozole, enchiladas, and tacos. My favorite drink from Mexico is agua de horchata. Some traditions my family has in Christmas Day, we levantar el niño de Dios.
And then I'm here for Natalia, and she is from Guanapana, Michoacana. One of the favorite things of her culture is known for avocados. It produces more avocados than any other state in Mexico. Some of the examples of the food that they eat are such as carnitas and tostadas and agua de chile. There is many more types of food that they eat. A tradition in Michoacan is leaving your shoes outside your room door on Christmas night, and then instead of Santa, it's called Los Tres Magos, and then the next morning they leave, you get candy and toys next to your shoe.
Hello, my name is Joseph Manji. I go to Abraham Lincoln, and I just wanted to say we are having a Noche Latina on October 5th at the Wickersham for AL's football game, and we want all Latinx students to join us and have just a representation of our Latin culture. Oh, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Dr. Murillo or Mr. Metaferla? Okay, and these aren't shoes, but they are cups of candy.
Let's go down all the way up in front.
Oh, yes.
Hold on, guys.
Mom wants a picture.
Yeah, just run right in there.
Yes.
Apparently it's something we don't get. Apparently it's pecan fudge.
And that completes our report, Mr. LaFurla.
Okay, thank you. And students, thank you for being here tonight. I'm proud of you for presenting to our group and for sharing your heritage with us and representing our schools and our district so well. Okay, this moves us on to the public participation portion of our meeting. And before we begin with the public participation, I want to inform everyone here that this is a meeting of the school board, which is conducted in public. It is not a meeting of the public. The school board meets in public to conduct its business, and while we are required to provide an opportunity for members of the public to address the board, Iowa law allows the district to create and enforce rules and regulations regarding the conduct of persons attending the meetings, as well as public participation. As described in our board policy, these rules and regulations include the following. Any person wishing to address the board is encouraged to notify the office of the superintendent or administrator designated by the presiding officer in person or by phone no later than 30 minutes prior to the start of the meeting, giving his or her name, street address, and the topic upon which he or she is to speak. Those who address the board will be recognized during that portion of the agenda entitled Public Participation. All speakers must be recognized by the board president before addressing the board. All questions and comments by the speakers will be directed to the board president in all cases. The board president may defer speakers' comments until the time when the appropriate agenda item is being discussed. The board reserves the right to place reasonable time limits on each speaker or group of speakers. Each speaker who notified the board secretary no later than 30 minutes before the meeting will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. Each speaker who is recognized by the board president and who did not provide prior notification will be limited to 3 minutes. When multiple individuals wish to address the board on one or more topics, a 30-minute time limit shall apply for total public participation, with the time limit of no more than 5 or 3 minutes per individual as described before. When these time limits exceed the 30-minute total time limit for public participation, then the board president shall assign time limits. In so assigning time limits, the board president may either set a total time limit in excess of 30 minutes and divide that time between all individuals requesting to address the board, or retain the 30-minute time limit and divide the 30 minutes between all individuals requesting to address the board. In dividing the time, the board president must divide allotted time equally to all individuals. Other regulations for persons addressing the board are: the speaker's remarks shall focus on a topic that is under consideration by the board or within the board's authority to address. It is the prerogative of board members to ask the speaker questions during the speaker's presentation or make comments as frequently as necessary to clarify the discussion. The speaker may make comments and ask questions but may not interrogate or debate issues with the member of the board. Any person interrogating or debating with the members of the board shall be ruled out of order by the board president. Complaints against individual employees of the district may be made during public participation only after they have followed board policy addressing complaints. If a speaker makes such a complaint, the presiding officer should inform the speaker of the proper procedure for making such complaints. Personal attacks and/or disparaging comments about individual board members, employees, students, or individual schools will not be tolerated. Behaviors deemed disruptive or inappropriate will be considered out of order by the presiding officer. The president may terminate a speaker's presentation for persistent violations of these rules, provided the speaker has been ruled out of order for violations. The opinions expressed by the public participants shall not be considered to be those of the board, district administrators, faculty, or staff. If the board determines a need for additional discussion of an issue raised during the public participation, the item may be added to the agenda for a future meeting. Now, I've read the policy and reminded members of the public here tonight of our rules and regulations for attending and participating in our meeting. I want to reiterate a few things. Per our policy in Iowa Code, the purpose of public participation is allow members of the public to address the board. Therefore, speakers' comments will be addressed to the board, not to the audience or to staff members. Personal attacks, disparaging comments, disruptive or inappropriate behavior will not be allowed. Speakers who violate these rules will lose their time, and audience members who are disruptive or inappropriate at any time will be asked to leave the meeting. Anyone who wished to speak tonight was asked to complete and turn in a form or complete one in the back of the room if they did not submit advance notice. I did have 3 members of the public request to speak in advance of the board meeting. These individuals will have 5 minutes. And first on my list is, forgive me if I do not pronounce all of these names correctly, Aubrianne Patterson. Are you here tonight? Please approach the podium. Okay. Your time will just be displayed behind us, Aubrianne.
Okay.
Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening. Forgive me for my nervous jitters. I'm Aubrianne Patterson. I live at 3238 6th Ave. I come before you today as a concerned parent and a fellow American who values this great nation. America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, offers protection from governmental overreach and unconstitutional mandates that are not law. Board members, some of you, if not all, have been hard at work to overstep the authority that parental consent holds. On September 15, 2021, I witnessed this firsthand when the principal of Rue Elementary, Mr. Moran, denied my daughter entrance to her school because I would not consent to having a harmful medical device placed on her face. Mr. Moran, nor you who are sitting on the board, had any right to refuse access to a public education paid for by your constituents or coerce them into going against their God-given will for their children. Knowing that you are attempting to do this would be perplexing to the average Joe, but those of us who know better know that you are in cahoots with the government and their plight to strip parents of their parents' rights. Try as you may to use what little power that you possess to bully parents into compliance, but we will push back with greater persistence. You claim to have our children's best interests at heart, while you continue to defy Iowa law and measures to place harmful medical devices on our children, even though evidence shows that children are not at significant risk for the Chinese coronavirus. You have complete disregard that the fatality rate is 0.673%, folks. That's less than 1% for our children in the US of A. Remarkable odds in the face of a supposed public health crisis. So where is the duress, I ask? You continue to go against the will of the taxpayers and do what you deem fit with our children with zero parental consent or reasoning. I certainly have not given parental consent to mask my child. You indulge in the ever-festering political clown show, which is directly and intentionally putting our children in harm's way. You ignore the voices of the majority to foot your own personal agenda with your allegiance. You ignore the voices of the majority to foot your own personal agenda when your allegiance should be to your constituents. The blatant, self-righteous means to control our impressionable and vulnerable children is abhorrent. Parents are our children's first and greatest advocates, and we will not stand idly by while our children's rights and freedoms are taken away. It's my job to raise my child, not yours. God gifted us parents with the responsibility of raising our children with discipline, integrity, morals, values, and a faith-based worldview. As such, we are speaking up and letting you know we are in control of our children, not the government nor the education system. You are only public stewards who work for the parents of our district. Therefore, you have been put in place to represent us and our children how we as parents see fit. Yet you have taken an unethical stance against us. We entrusted you with our children, and you have desecrated that trust. As board members and public educators, you have broken your oath to uphold the Constitution and serve the public. Your behavior has been illegal, abusive, and tyrannical. With that, you have awoken a sleeping giant by coming after our children. A fight is coming your way, and I guarantee it will be a day of reckoning you will wish you were on the side of liberty and freedom. Because when tyranny becomes the voice of its constituents, civil disobedience is a must. The majority stands united, and we stay bleeding red, white, and blue. We will not comply to your tyrannical demands. It's time we as Americans slip out of the shadows of silence and fight for our freedoms and that of our children's. To the board members and the public educators, it's not too late for you. Redemption is still in the cards. Thank you.
Amy Foster.
Good evening, Amy Foster, A-M-M-I-E. I live on 1205 North 28th Street. Psychological abuse is characterized as a regular and deliberate use of range of words and nonverbal actions used with a purpose to manipulate, hurt, weaken, or frighten a person both mentally and emotionally, confuse or influence a person's thoughts and actions within their everyday lives, changing their sense of self and harming their well-being. This board's botched decision to continue to mask our children with the fear of financial loss of a lawsuit has left students, parents, and school staff in a state of division. This board, superintendent, teachers, and fellow indoctrinated students are abusing, harassing, degrading, manipulating students based on religious and medical exemptions. The existence of the medical and religious waivers was not made public knowledge until the meeting of September 14th. This left parents little time to react before the beginning of the school day on September 15th. This information would have been helpful to students and parents. It would have been great if it was communicated in previous email. Students went to school on the morning of September 15th and were forced into principal offices, corners of rooms, hallways, all because they were not wearing a mask, which fell in line with their religious beliefs and medical exemptions. Each school reacted differently in their reactions to the mask expectation. Students were denied entrance into school. Students were publicly humiliated by staff and administrators, all because this board who sits in front of me gave no guidance to teachers or administration on how to handle the morning arrival of students on September 15th. I have a few things I would like to add to this. We are putting our children in classifications of groups, masked and unmasked. The symbol that divides these students, teachers, and administrators is the mask. The dehumanization of non-mask wearers lies in the indoctrination and mistreatment of the unmasked students. The organization in which it involves are people participating actively daily in this. We have students, we have staff that give nonverbal and verbal cues to students every day who are unmasked. The polarization of this event has created division within our schools. The identification, the requirement of filling out a waiver for religious and medical exemptions. And then the next, unfortunately, that I have to speak on is extermination. If none of you are aware of this, this is a study of genocide by Yale University. You have completed all 6, and the next is extermination. Lessons in rudimentary genocide were just as effective when I was 12 years old, putting students with blue eyes on one side and brown eyes on the other. Well, a lesson well taught. I hope that you are all satisfied with your need to avoid financial loss by using our children as collateral damage. In respect to Code 513, I am serving this school board and superintendent with a harassment form, in specific with my child, and I would expect that a third party would be contacting me since you will need to recuse yourself since it directly involves you. Thank you.
Brittany Shear. Brittany Shear. Are you here tonight, Brittany? We had 2 other individuals request to speak tonight when they arrived. Heidi Petro. Good evening.
My name is Heidi Petro. I live at 910 Fifth Avenue, Council Bluffs, Iowa, 51501. First things first, I have one question that I would like to ask the board. It's rhetorical in nature, so there's no need to answer. You're all highly educated, so this should be easy for you. What happens to the human mind when it is affected by excess CO2 and/or insufficient oxygen for an extended period of time? I know you all know the answer to that. I am here because I am asking for the resignation of Jill Shuddick and also of Chris LeFerrell. The reason I am asking for these resignations, I will read one letter. They are duplicated. And the letter of resignation says, I am hereby resigning my position as board member of the Council Bluffs Community Schools effective immediately due to conflict of interest. At the request from the community, I am stepping down as a Council Bluffs Community School Board member. The community feels there is a conflict of interest due to my donations to the lawsuit against the Governor Kim Reynolds and the local school districts. Loss of confidence in me and my loyalty to the community in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Sincerely, this one is Jill's. This one is Chris's. And since I know you're not going to sign it and step down, this is our petition that we will be starting immediately. We, the parents, grandparents, and taxpayers of the Council Bluffs Community School District Board, are requesting the resignations of Jill Shuddick and Chris LeFerrell. The request for resignation is due to the conflict of interest they have between the loyalty to their duties as CBCS board members and the personal ideologies and desires. It has come to our attention that Jill Shuddick and Chris LeFerrell, have donated to Iowa Parents for Common Sense. Iowa Parents for Common Sense is the group that is part of the lawsuit against Governor Kim Reynolds, as well as the school districts across the state, including Council Bluffs, Davenport, Decorah, Iowa City, Ankeny, and Des Moines Public Schools. We feel that this is an apparent and blatant conflict of interest in their responsibilities and allegiances to the Council Bluffs schools and our youth. We also believe that board members are violating these particular tenets of Iowa Board of Education examiners. IBE 25.31E1, committing any act of physical abuse on a student. IEB EE 25.3.3C, falsifying or deliberately misrepresenting or omitting material information submitted in the course of an official inquiry or investigation. Now, I know that one's in question because we're not officials. We do pay your wages. I'm sorry. I thought this was my time.
Right, but I was clarifying, and if you listen, I am stating that I'm clarifying something that you stated that is not true. We do not receive a penny in income for providing this service to our community.
Well, good, then you guys won't be having any problems when we start questioning to see your bank accounts, because that's coming. IBEE 25.3.6C, failing to make reasonable efforts to protect the health and safety of the students or creating conditions harmful to student learning. IBEE 25.3.6S, failure of the administrators to protect the safety of staff and students. And that's all I have to say about that.
You can give them to the board secretary.
Sir, this is yours.
I don't want it. You can give it to the board secretary.
And Jill,
I'm the board secretary. Hand it to me.
they can give it to you.
No, you can give
Ma'am,
it to me.
you can leave.
Why can't
It's
I leave?
because you are disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
Why am I disrupting?
Have a good evening.
It says his
It's time for
name.
you to go
There's
now.
There's his nameplate.
It's time for you to go now. I asked you to leave.
Thank you so much. And see, that's what our tax dollars did us.
Is it Judy Kane? Judy or Jody Kane? Okay. That's it. That concludes our public participation portion. Now we move on to resolutions. First, we have an approval of sale of the Madison campus building. Is there a motion?
I move that the Council Bluffs Board of Education approves the sale of the Madison campus building located at 1751 Madison Street, Madison Avenue, Council Bluffs, Iowa, to CP Holdings Incorporated in the amount of $3 million.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Are we going to have any presentation?
There's no presentation, but if there's any additional information that you'd like to request, I think between Dr. Murillo and Mr. Wilson, we should be able to answer everything.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was.
Oh, okay.
This is something I still struggle with, and I've been very open with you guys, of going
to
back
the
and
mic.
forth as far as where I stand on this decision. And, there was some definite passionate pleas last week or 2 weeks ago, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me about this particular topic. There is, I think the informational presentation that was done last week gave a lot of great information to the public, and some of the concerns that we had, some of the things that we could use the building for. So I greatly appreciate that. And I just keep going back and forth on this one, for sure.
Yeah, I guess I think last time there was something shared about, like the cost even of this facility, moving the ESC out there to that campus. And this facility at, some of that, there was a little discrepancy there, and it's really the utilities it would cost to run that building, and the cost of this. And it's about, in this facility we lease, that does come with that expense of about, $20,000 for the facility and the parking. Also includes all utilities. And this facility out here would have a utility expense to us. I think what did we figure out that was? Was it 10,000, 9,000?
It's about 100,000 a year.
So there is that to think about too. And I think that Dean had shared that piece that talked about kind of the cost of the improvements to that building. If we were to put Canesville there, the cost to upgrade that facility, change that entrance, block off a portion, keep it safe, kind of limit access to the rest of the facility, and then have ESC there. And I still disagree with that costing $4.2 million, in my mind. And I don't quite understand that, but I do recognize that property is going to have some expenses on the maintenance of the streets, the roof, all those other things that when you put those through, I think you had a dollar amount of about $1.5 million over time. That's, what's that, 6 or 7 years here, and we've seen great expense just keeping the parking lots up at these high schools. What did we spend, $1.2 million on AL? For something that, I think you get 20 years out of. So to see that we're going to have, potential for $1.5 million for a roof and this, and then still have that whole street that we own that goes all the way up to Bennett. And we have the whole maintenance of that. I think that was, that prior agreement with the shopping center, like that loop around there. I think that thing could get worn out. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree that it could be crazy, but I do expect that we'd have some expense there maintaining that, because it's already in not great shape. And then people would be mad that we're not maintaining that, and that would be pretty costly. I do think that the conditions at Canesville, while the upstairs, I think is much better than what's in the downstairs area. But we had talked about movement of Canesville. There's this general consensus that we keep Canesville in the middle of the town. That would support our families and our kids the best. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, but I do think that I understand wanting kids to have easy access to school, and that they should have a nice school. Certainly the basement where we had those transition programs, maybe we could just move those someplace else. I don't know. If we would sell this, we'd have $3 million. Maybe you could use a portion of those funds to improve some of that. Because there should be, that should be well maintained. And it was an old school when we got it. It's one of our older schools. The Canesville facility was even worse. And we've moved on from that now to here. But even with the small number of kids we have there, it should be nicer. I know we've talked about using other buildings. Be totally open to that. It is hard to balance all of these things into the sale of one building. Also, a building that if they bring 60, 70 jobs, that become taxpayer, or that creates revenue for us, and then you put that facility back on the tax rolls at $3 to $4 million. I'm guessing that would be 140,000 tax revenue a year. And then the jobs, that would be good for us. And I think anytime we're bringing jobs in Council Bluffs, that's good for us. Especially one that would also suit well with our trades programs, other things. So I think I feel like there's a lot in this, for people to decide on. It's not just as simple as selling the building or not selling the building. Yeah, we did spend, we bought it at a fire sale price because it's just a big building. And we got it for $3 million, I think, less than what they were offering originally, or $2 million. Well, how much was that originally price?
They originally asked $3.8 million for the building.
Yeah.
And we continued to work with them and got them to sell it to us for about $1.9 million.
Okay.
It was the only building in the Council Bluffs School District that could house over 1,100 students and staff. And so to be able to build a school and have our students, our middle school students, only have to transition into a swing site for 1 year and not live through construction, we still saved money on the back end, because if our students would have had to stay in their school and live through construction would have cost us 3 years at Kern and 3 years at Wilson. So the construction project would have been a 6-year span versus 2 years is what we were able to complete those construction. And our students, each one of the middle schools moved in and out of that building in 1 year. So it was what was best for kids, for an educational experience, to be able to go to school every day and not have to hear construction, work through construction, live through construction, and continue to be moved around a building, and to have that experience if I was entering as a 6th grade my whole middle school career. We were still able to keep our teams together, keep our 6th grade together, teams 7th grade and 8th grade. They were still giving all of the electives that they had in their school. They had band, choir, orchestra. They had 2 physical education spaces. We were really able to make this a good space, and that's what it was for. We did not know exactly what could be the purpose of this building when we were done. We talked about several options. But also, we had no idea that someone was going to come in and buy that mall and tear that mall down and put in there a Menards and back up a big lumber yard and all of that. And Menards is still struggling with the ring road. And what did come with that property, and Menards is not following the same CAM rules that we had with the NAM guards, the people that we bought that from. Now, we are responsible for that ring road and up to Bennett, as you spoke about. which is a great expense because we know how many people will be using, plus the diesel trucks that will be coming through there, bringing in and out. So it is, the landscape changed on us. I'm still very thankful for the opportunity we provided our middle school students. I did not, and the board did not agree to put them through 3 years of renovation. That was very wise. And my chief of academics officer had that vision to protect those children. And our test scores held because we did that. We had board members at that time that lived through 4 years of renovation at AL and never had 1 year. And the excitement of our students returning to those middle schools and the facility that they walk back into, that's a game changer. So I know that we're still worried about Canesville Alternative, but I also know that we can renovate that school. It is in the center of our school. And this morning I was there when students arrived, and we had several students coming in late, walking to Canesville. I don't know that they can walk to Madison campus, but it's the will of the board, and we will make every opportunity to pick those children up if the board decides to keep Madison campus.
Yeah, I think for, the purpose that we purchased it for originally, it has served that purpose. And I, just to state my position before we get to the vote, I think part of the reason why it's such a difficult decision is because you can dream about what to do with such a large building. But, it's a 95,000 square foot retail space. It was built as a retail space. It was not built to be a school that lasts 100 years. And, I'm very concerned about the short-term cost it would take to renovate it in the millions, the long-term cost to maintain it. Our lease here at the Omni Center is $250,000 a year, which sounds like a lot, but it's $10 a square foot. And we don't have to pay utilities. So just utilities alone at the Madison campus is well over $100,000. I'm also concerned about the zoning. We have temporary permission to have students in that building now. And if we were to keep it, we would be relying on the city to grant us permanent zoning to keep it as a school. And we don't yet know if that would be possible. I think our best decision really is to sell it, return it to the tax rolls, as Troy mentioned. I was concerned originally that we would never get any real offers. And, that's another reason why it's difficult, because I didn't expect to get such a good offer on it. And from what I understand, it's a good business. Certified Transmission is from everything that I hear, a really good company to work for. Bring in good jobs. It's a cash offer. We got a lot out of that building. And, all that said, if we do sell the building, Canesville has to be a priority. It has to be a priority. And I think with ESSER funding potentially, and potential proceeds from the sale, we can do a really good job giving Canesville students the building they deserve to have. Any other discussion, questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire? Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Hardiman?
Yes.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, motion carries. Next, we move on to resolution requesting spending authority for excess ELL costs. Is there a motion?
Move to approve requesting from the School Budget Review Committee, MSA, of $433,700.15 for excess ELL costs from the 2020-2021 year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't know, so this is for excess costs that we incur. I think you should always describe these.
We receive some state funding every year for ELL students. And what the SBRC does, if we go over that amount that they fund us, they give us spending authority for that. So our costs were in excess of about, to the tune of about $433,000. This happens every year. Funding is just not that robust from the state, but they do at least give us a spending authority back for it.
And Mr. Arthur, if you remember, last year, the legislators did increase the ELL spending authority, and that's the first time we have received any increase in a long time. So hopefully the cost next year will be
They
less.
increased the funding or
Yeah,
the authority?
The authority, the weighted,
The way, the funding went up a little bit.
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Still not where it needs to be so that we zero out, but they did show a little bit of an increase.
And I always go back to those thoughts of those students who come in who don't read or write their own language. And then we're required to, work them through school. So I know we have costs in this. We know we don't incur, we don't recoup. And that's what spending authority gives us, although it doesn't give us funding. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman?
Yes.
And Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next up, approval to request SBRC approval for special education deficit. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that the Council Bluffs Community School District request allowable growth and a supplemental aid payment for the special education deficit of $1,513,947.65 in the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And again, same thing. Federal law requires that we, spend monies we don't have to provide essentially the needed special education services, kind of regardless of where the dollars come from. State of Iowa gives us spending authority for that, but does not actually replace the dollars. And every year we ask for this so we can at least continue to function. Yeah, that's all.
Good job.
Thank you, Troy. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, motion carries. Next, we have approval of the budget guarantee. Is there a motion?
I can move that the board approves a 1% budget guarantee request and may levy property tax for the fiscal year of 2022-2023 for the regular program's budget adjustment as allowed under section 257.14 of the Iowa Code as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Mr. Wilson, you want to explain this
Yeah,
one?
I sure will, for our new members. If our funding for the next year is tied to enrollment, and if enrollment goes down, what happens is that there's this 1% budget guarantee that we would at least get a 1% increase for the year. And I calculated it today, and that's about $650,000 that we would get in funds. If we did not have this budget guarantee, we wouldn't get any increase in funding in state aid. So this is just in case the enrollment goes down, we have this mechanism in place to at least get some funding in the next school year.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, the motion carries. Next, we have approval of a sanitary sewer easement with the City of Council Bluffs. Is there a motion?
I motion that the board approve the sanitary sewer easement with the City of Council Bluffs as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This is tied to the Mall of the Bluffs, and we just sold it. So is this ours to still do?
Yes, because even though we have approved the seller agreement,
Okay.
there's still a 90-day window where they'll do their due diligence and the process that they'll work through. This is really underneath the utilities and the sewer, underneath the lines and all of that, really need to be corrected. There's a lot of concern with the water, and if they would have an issue and turn that off, it would turn everything off in that area all the way up to McDonald's, Kentucky, and all of that. And we had a couple of times last year, we had really low water pressure. And so this work really needs to be done, but they need the easement. Menards is going to pay for it and make all the repairs afterwards.
Okay.
And so that is something that needs to be done for that area.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Hardeman,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Now we have approval of easement for City of Council Bluffs Waterworks. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the easement for City of Council Bluffs Waterworks as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is this also related to the Madison campus easement we just approved? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Dr. Ogres.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Ms. Shudak.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman.
Yes.
And Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, the motion carries. Next up, we have approval to purchase a home at 619 North 9th Street. Is there a motion?
I move that the board approves the purchase of the residence at 619 North 9th Street and the vacant lot contiguous to the property from Jolene Wetmore for the amount of $185,000 plus closing cost and $5,000 in moving allowance expense.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Dr. Merlin, do you just want to give a quick synopsis?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. The home that we're purchasing will be, is in the, on the outskirts of the property that we already own where the Tinley building was. This will allow us to have enough land to build the new early learning center. And so we did approach the owner of the home to see if they would be interested in selling. It was a great time for them. The family was making a change already. And so they were open to selling the home. The fair market value of the home was $135,000. The district is paying above fair market value. The family and the mother that still lives there, I think it's a win-win for both of us. So this will allow us that additional space that we needed.
And we were able to use funds that were raised from individuals to purchase that if needed.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
You're saying not tax dollars? What are you saying?
As part of the fundraising for that campaign.
We'll use private dollars.
Okay, private dollars?
Yes, we will use private dollars for the purchase of the home.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire.
Yes.
Dr. Ogres.
Yes.
Mr. Arthur.
Yes.
Ms. Shudak.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman.
Yes.
And Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries. Next, we have approval of the amended 28E agreement for Council Bluffs Area Wi-Fi Consortium. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move that the board approve an amended 28E agreement with the City of Council Bluffs, the City of Carter Lake, and the Lewis Central School District establishing the Council Bluffs Area Wi-Fi Consortium.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
And I guess, yeah, the original one that was out there was just City of Council Bluffs and us. That was 7 years old now, I
Yes.
believe. And that established the Council Bluffs Area Wi-Fi Consortium, which essentially is mainly the west end and part of this middle portion of the east side. And as they've expanded Blink throughout Council Bluffs, there's an opportunity to actually expand further that way and bring students in from their side. Is that what this is?
Yeah.
regarding?
John, why don't you come in and really do a really nice overview of this?
John.
Because this is a really good next step, because Lewis Central is joining the consortium. And so I'd like John leads the committee that oversees this, and he's our chair. So John, talk just a real high level of this.
Real high level. Essentially, what we have done throughout the city, at least in our school district, we've been able to, where technically feasible, we've been able to provide Wi-Fi with one exception, and that is south of AL. That project is in the works, and so now the city would like to expand essentially south of I-80, which will also benefit some of our students that open and enroll to us. So already we cover about 85% of all of our students in the district with essentially free Wi-Fi throughout the city. And so this will just add to it for not only our school district, but will also aid the city in helping Lewis Central as well.
Yeah, and John, we've been able to benefit from the ESSER dollars, the federal dollars that have come in, and we've added Carter Lake, plus been able to almost finish all of our district with these additional funds and continuing to have the funding of our partners. And so now being able to bring Lewis Central in, it will soon be, Blink will be citywide.
Citywide, and also the city of Carter Lake.
Yes, perfect. And Chris?
Okay, and they come into like a cost-sharing
Yes, they
agreement
are.
with us on all this? Okay.
And are the partners basically the same partners that have, so Echo Electric and Google and the other vendors that have been providing not only the hardware, but also the workforce to be able to install the devices throughout the city?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, and the motion carries.
And me, yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kazire.
I'm good.
Finally, we have approval of Blink Phase 1 equipment upgrade. Is there a motion?
Motion to move to approve the equipment upgrade of Blink Phase 1 backhaul.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We need Mr.
So this
Stiles again?
is- Maybe.
No.
Yeah.
What this is, Troy, is our phase one that the district partnered and put that together about 8 years ago, John, 7 and 8. It's time to upgrade that equipment. And while we have the ESSER dollars, we need to do everything we can possible to ensure that we upgrade our technology so that our students can connect wherever they are. So this is upgrading all the materials that we need to make sure we bring it, because technology, within 5 years, it's old. So John has been pushing to make those upgrades. So this is phase one. So we're going back now to phase one.
And this
You
is the
okay, John?
area, this is right around really the kind of Wilson area, I would describe. Like
Yes.
almost 13th, not quite 25th, and on that side
Yes,
to about where Walmart is, I'm guessing.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman,
Yes.
Dr. Ogres.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla.
Yes, the motion carries. Now we have approval of our consent agenda, which includes approval of the evaluation and testing program for this school year, approval of MOUs with the YMCA for operating the current pool, approval of the 2021-2022 committee appointments, approval of additional esports equipment purchase, and approval of special education contracts, and personnel action, and claims and accounts. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Dr. Ogres.
Yes.
Mr. Kazire,
Yes.
Mr. Arthur,
Yes.
Ms. Shudak,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman,
Yes.
and Mr. LaFurla.
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes our business. We're adjourned.